2 weeks ago, we did a story indicating that lower vitamin D levels were correlated with longevity. Now, the study didn't, and we weren't able to identify any causation between that. In other words, we found a group that had lower vitamin D levels and lived longer, but certainly we didn't want to jump to the conclusion that there was any kind of causation there. There's another study that has come out now which says that, this is from out of McGill University in Montreal, that vitamin D actually slows the progression of cells from pre-malignant to malignant states, kind of keeping the proliferation in check. This is pretty interesting, and this applies to vitamin D that is obtained from dietary sources or exposure to the sun in both cases. So it's interesting because in this particular case, we had one study that didn't necessarily indicate causation, but it indicated a correlation, that lower vitamin D makes you live longer, even though that's not actually what it said, but somebody might draw that conclusion.
Right.
Here we have a study which indicates that more vitamin D can actually prevent cells from becoming cancerous. So how are people to take in this information? This is just one example, but you know that there's countless examples of conflicting medical studies.
True. In general, I have that the one we did a couple weeks ago was probably the only study we've seen that seemed to suggest that lower levels of vitamin D might somehow be a good thing. I think in general, the consensus is that vitamin D, along with the other vitamins, play a somewhat important role in maintaining a healthy lifestyle.
Now, Natan, this particular case may be an outlier, but broadly, how are people to parse through all of the conflicting medical reports? You know, carbs are good, then they're bad, so on and so forth.
Right. People can't really parse through it because we don't have all of the evidence, but we have more evidence that vitamin D is good. But what I'll say is sometimes this happens because studies are just poorly designed, and some of the ones that have contradictory results are just bad studies. On the other hand, it's possible that vitamin D is good for people with certain characteristics and bad for people with other characteristics, and we just don't know what those are yet.
Right.
So we don't know.
Well,
it is almost impossible to parse through.
All right, Lewis, parsing and parsing day in, day out. Very good.
That's how we do.